All right, let's get started. I have a quick overview of things we need to go through in order to create this email automation system. First, I'm gonna show you the sheet structure, and then we're gonna design the two forms, the email form, make the design, and the contact form, make that design with all our contacts, our email addresses and departments and names and so on. Then we're gonna code the two forms, and at the end we're gonna test it. Let's get started. So we have the 4 sheets here. Start, where we will have a button that opens the email system, and then we have a settings. With email templates, we can load emails directly into the system. Email systems that sends the monthly report, reminder for upcoming meetings, welcome to the team emails, and so on with attached files. The next thing is our contacts. This is our sheet, our backend sheet for the contact form where we have our email addresses with names, departments, and cities. And then we have the log sheet here that logs all emails we're gonna send. So that was the sheet structure. Now let's do the fun part, designing the email form. All right, all F11 to go to Visual Basic. Insert Userform. And here we will insert some elements, but first we can set the height and the width. Let's change this height to 490 and the width to 420. Like so. And let's change the name here. We can just call it email automation form, and the name we call that FRM email sender, like so. Then we can insert a label here and call it email automation form. Let's change the form color to white, and the same with this. Change the size, maybe something like this. The text alignment is by default left. Let's center that so it's in the middle. Also, we can change the color here, something like this. We're probably gonna do more settings, colors, and the size and stuff like that, and code it in the form, but more about that later. Let's change this name to LB for label header, and then we're gonna have more labels here. This one we're gonna call that 2, where we're gonna send the emails to. Change it to bold here. Copy paste this, and the next one is CC. So who are we gonna set CC to? Then we have email sent. Let's copy paste this one and put it at the bottom. And we can just write email sent. And we're gonna call that label LB status. I'm not gonna rename all these other labels. That's not very important. The ones I've labeled is because we're gonna reference that in the code. 1, 2, 3 here. And the first one, we're gonna call that CB for command button 2. And the next one, CB CC. And the last one, CB BCC. Then we need a command button that browse through files. So we can call that browse. And let's do 30 in height and 84 in width. Something like this. And let's call it btn browse. Copy this because we're also gonna need a send. btn send. And we need a reset also. btn reset. All right, then we need some text boxes. Let's start with 2. Something like this. And we call that tx for text box, txt 2. And let's do 25. Copy paste this. Put it here. Copy paste it here. And this one we're gonna call txt cc. And this one we're gonna call txt bcc. Let's do the subject line also. txt subject, and the body or the message here. And let's do the height 100. And let's call this txt body. That's what they called in coding language to the email. And then we need to change it because this box needs to have multiple lines, so we are able to write multiple lines. So first we need to find where it says multiple line here. Is on default on false, but we want it to be true. So let's test it out here. When we write something here, it jumps to the next line. You get the point. Then we have attachment. We call that txt attachment. We can browse for that with this button. Then we need also to do the browse box here. Expand that because we have multiple attached files. So the box need to be expanded. Let's do 60 here instead of 18. Let's do 60. And then we also need to change it to have multiple lines in case we have multiple attachment. Then we need to have a frame here. And we don't need a caption for that. We can call that FM save template. And inside of this, we need to have some things. First of all, we need a text box. Maybe 18 in height. Let's call that txt save template. And we also need a command button inside of it. That's called save template. let's call that btn save template. Then we also need a checkbox. And we call that in the caption save as email template. And call that CB save template. The last thing we need is also a combo box here. Sorry, we're gonna move around with some things when I'm done with the design. But we need a combo box, and let's call it CMB templates. And with this box, we instantly load email templates from the sheet I showed you in the first video. Let's do 18 in height and 250. 250 here. Let me explain a little bit what's the idea. So the idea is when you open this, the contact form that we haven't coded yet will open up and you can attach people to it. Subject line, that explains itself. Message with multiple lines here, the same with attachments. And we can open a dialog box here and you can find a file and it will write it to this. And email templates, you would have email templates here you can choose from, and then it fills out this form automatically. And the point with this is you can save this as an email template. So this box will by default be not visible, and then when you click this box appears and you can save this template with a name here, monthly report, for example, save, and then you have the monthly report as part of your templates. Put this a little bit down here, and then we should be good. Let's move on. All right, let's check this. We did the email form design, and now we're going to move on to the contact form design. Let's go to Visual Basic here. Insert user form. Call it contacts. And we're going to set the settings, the size to 270 in height and 440. Let's do 460. That's the size. And let's just keep it the same color for now. Then we're gonna make 2 command buttons. The first one we're gonna call select. And we're gonna set that to 18 in height and 48 in the width. Something like this. And let's change the color here just to black. And then we can do a white font here. All right, and we're gonna call that CB select. Let's just copy paste this and put this underneath. And we're gonna do 18 height also here, but 90. Something like this. And we're gonna call that, add and close. And the control name, we're gonna call that CB add and close. Like this. Then we're gonna have a text box. And let's put that as 45 in height and 270. down here in the width. And we need to set multi-line equals to true. Let's move these up a little bit. And then we need 4 labels. Like so. Okay, now we need 8 text boxes. And let's set them 18 in height and 90 in width. This one we call TB name. And this one TB department. And this one TB city. And the last one, and this one TB mail. And then the one below, we just write them TB1, TB2, TB3, and TB4. Okay, let's move these things a little bit around. This is just for now, because we need to make space for a list box here. This is the list box that includes all our contacts. And we're going to call that LB search or list box search. And let's do 100, 440. So 100 in height and 440. Maybe we should do this a little bit longer here. So now the idea should be that when we click these buttons, this form pops up here, and these boxes should be aligned next to our columns. So that's it. Now we have our 2 forms. Check. The next we're gonna do is email form. The first form we just created, now we are gonna code it so it works. All right, let's jump into the first Userform we made here. Let's code it so it works, so these buttons works, and we can get our contacts in and also attach files and messages and templates and so on. Very cool stuff. Let's get it right to it. Okay, so double tap on the Userform, and you see there's nothing in our Userform yet. But we are in the Userform, and then you have to select initialize. So this is basically when it's loading. Get rid of this. And then copy these few lines in. And let me explain what it does. I just didn't want to write it out fully, but we have 3 things we dim here. We dim center X, center Y, and the last row. Then we're gonna do a center X and a center Y for application left and top, and plus it basically 0.5 multiplied application width and height, and minus that width and height. So what it basically is, it's gonna adjust the form so it fits the screen if you're on a laptop and so on. And then we're gonna center it here with these 2 lines of code, top and left, so it's in the center. And these are the width and height that we set manually. I just like it to also be coded into the form. Then we have some buttons here and some labels. So basically what I want to do is I want to change the color of these buttons, and we can also set this as a default color. So let's do that. Let's start with the send, reset, and the browse. And then we'll take the label, the header label. We can just set it to the same color or something like that. This can also show you how you can set the color. So let's get started on that. We're gonna write ME. These are the elements that is in this Userform. You refer to that as me. btn, and let's start with the send here, dot back color equal RAB, and then we're going to use this color code 46 204 113. Let's copy paste this and write reset here. Write it with small and see the code corrected. I always do that. 2176 and 60. And then we have the browse. Let's change that also. Browse. Let's do 255, 153, 51. These are the three buttons. So we can test and have a look how it looks like here. Yeah. So we just coded this so it has these four colors. Let's take the label also. We can do MELB header, back color, RAB, 46, 204, 113. And in the parentheses. So basically the same color as this. Actually, I prefer to not be the background color, but be the font color. So we can do .4 color instead. That would be nice. Yeah, instead. All right, moving on. Let's move some space here. And the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna set this frame as not visible, because we want it to only be displayed if the user click save as an email template. Then you can name the email template. But this frame with this box in is just confusing if we are not planning to save it as a template. So when the user form loads here, we need to make the frame not visible. So ME dot, and we call it frame save template dot visible equals false. So now you wouldn't be able to see it because it's not visible. And when we have coded this, the idea is that it should appear. But let's finish this code inside the user form, the initialize. So the next thing is we're going to set WS equal this workbook dot sheets settings. This is our sheet because we have email templates. That's why we're going to set this workbook equals settings, or set this WS equal this workbook sheets dot settings. And then we're going to do the last rule that we have defined up here. The last row equal WS cells, WS rows dot count, and from column A. This is a very important step. Dot end Excel up dot row, because this allows you to add as many email templates as you want, and the system still works no matter how many templates you have. And then we're gonna do a with CMB template here. And this is the key of writing things with small. It didn't recognize this because it's called CMB templates. You see, it corrects it here. And then we're gonna do a clear and a for. So for I from third row to last row, add item. We wanted to add item here. Worksheet from worksheet cells I1 dot value, and do an XI here, and then we're gonna end with. So what it basically is runs through all the rows from row 3 to the last row from column A in the settings sheet, and find all the email templates and add it to the combo box CMB templates. And it's gonna take it from the third column sorry, it's going to take it for the third row, first column, because this is the email template name. This is what I mean. So now it has monthly report, meeting reminder, and welcome email. It doesn't populate yet because we haven't changed the code inside of this combo box. That's what we're gonna do now. So you double tap on the CMB templates, because now we're gonna make it populate the whole form with our email templates. Very cool stuff here. And you need to make sure you are in the CMB templates change, which you will be by default. And then you write this code. We're gonna dim WS as worksheet. Then we're gonna dim last row as long. Then we're gonna dim I as long. And then we're gonna dim template name as string. Then we're gonna set template name equal CMB templates dot value. We're gonna set WS equal this workbook dot sheets, and use the settings sheet again. And then we're gonna set the last row. Last row equal WS dot cells WS rows dot count, and from column A dot end XL up dot row. And then we're gonna do a loop here for I3 to a last row. If WS dot cells I from the first column, if that value equals the template name that we defined above, then we need to populate all the elements in the box, because these two things are equal to each other. So we're gonna do a text to dot text. That's the text box. We're gonna set that WS cells I from the second column dot value. And let's just copy this multiple times. So the next thing is CC, and that's from the third column. And then we have BCC. You can see here, BCC, the fourth column. And then you have the subject from the fifth column. And the body, basically the message in the email, from the sixth column. And then we have the attachment from the seventh column. And let's double check here. The attachment, column G, 7 column. Then we're gonna exit for and end if, and do our next Y. Let's save it and test it. Let's test the form here. This still doesn't work. But what does work is our email templates here. So now you can see it has the monthly report, the email reminder, and the welcome email. This is pretty cool. It's to draw all the information from this backend sheet, the settings sheet here with the email templates. And when we start adding email templates, that's also going to be very cool. It adds email templates, so you can load more email templates. Let's move on here. The next thing is we want this box that we hidden when the form loads to appear when we checkbox this and make it vanish when we uncheck this. So we're going to go to save as email template checkbox, double click here, and then we're going to write the following code here. If me.cb save template, if that checkbox value equals true, then we're gonna write me frame save template dot visible equals also true. Else we're gonna do, let's just copy paste this because we're gonna set it as false, and then end if. That's it. A very quick code here that performs this. So imagine you've filled this in with a new details, a new template, and you want to save it. You click here and give it a name and save it as template. And then when you've coded this, it will save it to this backend sheet and you can load it. Very cool stuff. Let's code these 3 buttons because I want to tell the system where it comes from. So the system should know which of these buttons that is clicked on, because whatever button is clicked, the contact form that we created needs to get the email addresses back to either this box, or this box, depending on if we clicked on this one, or this one. So that's why we need to tell the system, make it a signal which of these buttons that the user have clicked on. So we don't avoid clicking on 2 and then we fill in the contact form and the contact goes to the wrong, for example, BCC. There's many ways of doing that, but just wanted to do it obviously. So whenever you click this button, it resets the color to black and color the one you clicked green. Then we can, from the contact form, identify which of these buttons that is green and get that information of email addresses into the right box. So if this is green, it throws it into this box. If this is green, into this box, and so on into this box. So let's start by coding that now. So if we're gonna code this first, then we're gonna write frm email sender. That's our form. .cb2 .backcolor equals RAB 0, 0, 0. That's black. And basically just copy paste this, because we also needed to do it to CC and to BCC. So it sets everything to black. And then we wanted to change this 2 button to green, because when we click on this, we need it to be green. Let's just copy paste this and change that to 250. And then it should open the other form. So do a contact.show. That will open the other form. Let me show you how. So now when we click this one, it marks this screen. And when we have coded this one and select the emails, it knows when they click on this, add and close, that it should write the emails back to this one because this button is green. All right, so let's just copy paste all this because it's basically almost the same we should do for every button. So here, all set them to black, but because we clicked on the CC now, then it's not the 2 that it needs to be green, it's the CC. Same with the BC, copy paste here, and write BCC. Now it works for everything. You see? So that's the idea. The next thing we need to code is this browse button, because now we've coded all these 3 buttons so it open up this form. So what we need to do is code this browse button. Let's get right into it. We have the browse button click event here. We're going to start dim fd as file dialog here. Then we're going to dim selected item as variable. Let's make it with big I. Then we're going to dim default path as string. Then we're going to set the default path equal this workbook's path. And then we're going to do a and make a backslash here. And then we're going to set the fd equal application.file dialog. Let's take this step by step. Application.file dialog here. And then we're going to do mso file dialog file picker. The first one here. And then we're going to set the fd allow multiple select and set that to true. Then we're going to do fd.title, set that equal select files to attach. And then we're going to do fd.initial file name here. And set that equal to also default path. Then we're gonna do a if statement. If fd.show equals -1, then for each selected item in fd.selected items, if txt attachment.text equals blank, then we need the txt attachment.text equals selected item. Else, we're going to do a txt attachment.text equal txt attachment.text and something called VB control F and selected item. And you can see the system recognize it because it changed the letters to capital letters at the beginning. And then we're going to do an end if here and do a next selected item and end if. Oh. End if. That's it. Let's test it. And here we are testing it, what we just coded here. Let's browse. And it works. It opens up where the file is. Let's have a PDF here. Let's say the monthly report. And you see it draws the file, the whole path, and the monthly report.pdf. And we can do a, let's clear this actually. Let's do a multiple select here. Let's just select all of them. Okay. And now you can see it have attached everything. 3 PDFs. I mean, this box is a little bit small, but you get the point. It has the welcome to the team PDF, the monthly report, and meeting agenda. So it works. So now the next thing we're going to code is the send button. Pretty cool here. So we double tap And now we're gonna set it up so we can send emails directly from this system. I'm gonna start with some error handling to make sure if it runs into an error, it doesn't break, go to error handling. So you're also gonna learn some quick error handling here. On error, go to error handler. So it's always good to incorporate some error handling in case of the coding breaking down, running into an error. So that's what we're going to do here. So we're going to write error handler here and write message box error and error.description, comma, VB critical. Then we're going to do LBL status dot caption equal error sending email. LBL status dot for color equal VB red. So basically change the color to red if the code runs into an error. And then we're gonna do LBL status visible equal true. And put this at the end of the code. And what it basically does is it runs into an error. It comes up with a message box error and a description. What's the error? And change the label, the caption to error sending email, and change the color to red and make the label visible, this label. So it's gonna change this label to the error we just made here, the error message, error sending email. And then we're gonna put the text in between here. All right, let's test the error. Try to click send here, and it says error object required, and there's a debug. And I've figured out we're referring to LBL status. Let's debug this. And there's missing an L here, which reminds me, always test alongside your coding project. Like do small steps at a time, because we found this mistake that there was a missing an L here, which is good. We covered that. So now when we click send here, it makes an error and it changed the text to error sending email and changed the color to red. So now the error message work. Then we're gonna write actually sending code between these two, like the error go to error handler and here between these two, because in case there's no error, we need it to send emails. We're gonna dim Outlook app as object. Let's change it for big here. Then we're gonna dim Outlook mail as object and dim file error as string and dim ISO. Now we're going to validate the required fields to make sure every field that needs to be sent, to make sure everything is correct entered. So if txt2 text equal blank, or txt subject line dot text equal blank, or txt body dot text equal blank, then we need a message box and access sub and end if. Let's do the access sub here and end if. And then we're going to write a message box here. Message box, please fill in to subject and message. Do a VB exclamation. So let's try that also. Please fill in to subject and message. and it doesn't go to the error handling because it didn't find an error. It just got to this if statement and then exits out. Then we're gonna set Outlook app equal create object and do a Outlook dot application and set Outlook mail equal Outlook app dot create item and set that equal 0. Set it to 0. And then we're gonna do a with Outlook mail. We're gonna set to equal txt 2 dot text. Then we're gonna set cc equal txt cc dot text. Actually, let's just copy paste this to BBC subject line body. Yeah. So the next one, BBC. Subject. And body. So now we need to handle multiple attachments. And we're going to do that with if txt attachment dot text is not blank. Then we need the file r equal split txt attachment dot text VB control F. And we're going to do a for I equal L bound file R to U bound file R. Then we're going to do a if there file R I is not equal blank, then we need dot attachments dot add file R dot I, and I as the object. Then we're going to do an end if, next I, and end if. And then we're going to do the email sent dot display. So this, if you want to send the email directly, you're going to change that to dot send. But I'm not going to do that because I don't want to send emails to fake email addresses. But this is what you're going to do. You're going to change this dot display to dot send instead. And then we're going to do end with. And that's the with here we have up here. Then we're going to call log email details. A submodule we haven't coded yet. I'm just going to comment this out so we don't forget. Call log email details. So we need to code that afterwards. Then we're gonna do the LBL status caption email sent And we're gonna do the LBL status 4-color RGB 0, 150, 0. I'm missing a comma here. Then we're gonna do LBL status dot visible equal true. So this label pops up when we send it. And then we're gonna call another module we haven't coded yet. Call btn reset. Click. That's basically the next module we're gonna code. Exit sub here, and then we have the error handling that we coded. All right, let's do a quick test here to see if it works. We can get emails here, but we haven't coded this form yet. So let's just write test at mail.com. Let's just put it all three. The subject line test, message text, attachment, the monthly report, and send. So it works. Let's moving on. Okay, the next thing is the reset button. That doesn't do anything. It doesn't reset. That's the bottom we're gonna code now. And I'm just gonna copy the full code in because it's not that technical. I just didn't want to write it. So we're just gonna set all the elements equal blank and then the command button template list index to -1 and the label as visible equals false. So that's just a quick way to do it about it. You can pause it and copy the code in. That's it for the reset. And let's test it here. As always, testing is super important. Meeting reminder, clear. So what are we missing? We're missing the log thing to log emails when we send it, and this thing where you're able to save an email template. Let's start with this thing. All right, now we need to code this save template. And the way it works is this. Let me, just do a simple test here. Just so you understand what it does. Yeah, let's just have a monthly report. Test. Let's say you want to, for whatever reason, save this as a template because there's not a test template. Then you click here and you can call it test template. And then when you click save here, we haven't coded it yet, so nothing happens. But if you click save here, it will save this template. So you can load this template next time. I don't know why you would do that, but you can write real templates you can use over and over again. And that's how to do it. That's what we're going to do with this code. So we're going to start DM some variables here. DM WS as worksheet. And we're going to DM next row as long. And then we're going to do if me dot txt save template dot value equal blank. Then we need to display a message box and exit sub end if. So basically what it means is if we click here and we try to save something, but this is blank, it should come up with a message, hey, please give it a name or something. So we can say message box please enter a name for this template, something like that. VB exclamation mark. So this is what it does. Try to save a template that doesn't have a name. I mean, we don't have anything here else, and we're gonna handle that also. Then we're gonna set WS equal this workbook dot sheets, and we're gonna use the settings sheet. That's where we have the template. And next row, and set that equal WS as WS dot cells WS rows that count from column A1 dot end Excel up dot row. So it's basically last row but plus one. So we need to make sure the template we're setting is one row below last row. That makes some space. And then if next row is less than 3, then next row equal 3. So it starts below the header. Then we're going to do it with WS. We're going to do cells next row, comma 1 dot value equal me dot text save template dot value. That's the template name. Now I'm gonna copy paste this. To column 2, column 3. And what do we have? We have text 2 and text CC. 2 here, CC. And line it up here. Column 3, 4, 5, 6. And we're having in column 4, we have the BC. And in column 5, we have the subject. And then we have the body here. The message, I should say. So let's, you can see here, subject here, body, message here. In column 7, we have the attachment, the txt attachment. Like so. And then we're gonna do end with. We're almost done. Then we need a message box here. Template saved successfully. VB information. Like so. And we can also make it call Userform initialize. We're missing an underscore here. That way we call the initialize, the Userform initialize, and we can see the template right here. So when we save it and go through all these steps, actually let's do it for testing. Let's say John need a mail and we need to send it to him, and a follow-up mail on leads. Hi, John. How is it going with the new leads? Something like this. And let's say just, yeah, we can have an attachment here just to do it. Meeting agenda. Then we can write here follow-up mail. Save it. Template saved successfully. And now we have to follow up mail now. Let's save it here, and I've saved it. It's right here. This is what we just did. We are pretty far. Let's move on. Save the workbook. And we can also call this reset button. So it resets the email. All right, the last code we need for this user form is the email log submodule. Remember when we're sending here, we had this comment out, call log email details. That's what we're gonna code right now. Just to give you some context, is this sheet that tracks every email we send with a timestamp, with a date and a time, template name. If there is any template, it could also just be a normal email we don't have from a template, then there will be no data here. And then it fills in this, all these details. Let's get right to it. We can just write it down here with a private submodule. So we're gonna write private sub log email details. Of course, important that we name it exactly how it is in the initialize, but one step at a time. We're gonna dim log sheet as worksheet. Then we're gonna dim next row as long, and we're gonna set log sheet equal this workbook dot sheets. We're gonna use the log sheet. We're gonna use the sheet called log. Let's just make this a big letter here. We need to find the next empty row in that sheet to be able to track the emails. It needs to write all the emails we're sending to the next available row. So we're gonna do next row equal log sheet dot cells log sheet dot rows count, and use the first column dot end excel up dot row +1, because we want to add it below the last row. This is essentially the last row, but we want it to be +1 below last row. So that's why I call it the next row. If next row is smaller than 2, then next row should be equal to 2. Just so we write it under the header. The header is in row 1. So in case log is empty, that's what this line is for. Then we're going to do with log sheet cells next row, and use the first column dot value equals now. So that's the timestamp. Yeah, let's copy this. So row 1, row 2, 3, 4, and 5. The next one is the template. So we're going to write CMB templates.value. If we're selecting a template, that's what's gonna go into column number 2. Column number 3 is 2. So that's the txt 2.text. And the fourth is CC. So you can also copy this. Then there's less text we need to edit. CC. And the next thing is BC. Then we have column 6 and 7. This is the subject. And this is the body, the message of the email. And then we finally have in column 8 the attachment. All right, and then we're gonna do an end with. And as always, let's run a test. Before we run a test, it's important that we activate here the call log email details. Otherwise, it will not log it. So let's run a test here. And we're standing on the log sheet so we can see it, write it to this sheet. Let's just use a template here. Send. And here we have it. And you can see it track it here in the sheet. Well, let's close that. Close this. Okay, maybe there's some formatting we need to do now. Yeah, this looks better. The timestamp 26th of April and 2:43. The month of report, the email, CC, there was no BC2, and the subject line, but the body, and there was an attachment here. So that's what we just coded. So that was the last part of the form. Let me just really quickly write a model here, call it open form. And then we're gonna do frm email sender.show. And then we're gonna insert a shape here. Call this open email form. Something like this. And right click, assign macro, open form. So now we open it directly. And I can see one mistake. I don't know if you can see it, but actually we don't want it to say email sent here. So we need to hide that. So this label is called listbox LBL status. So when we load, we need to make sure that that label is not visible. So we can do it here, me lbl status visible equal false, And now when we open it, there's no message. Nice and clean. We can do these follow-ups again. And we can do these email templates again. Send. Here it is. And let's go out of this. And we have the log file here. Now we've logged this email that we sent. All right. So that's it for the email form. We have now coded everything in that form. So what we're missing is the contact form, and then do a little bit of testing. The next thing, contact form code. That's what we're gonna take a look at now. Go to Visual Basic here. And then we're gonna open contact form here and double click on form. And we're gonna use initialize. That's where we're gonna start. And again, let me just copy some of the code in. This is just similar to what we did with the other form. We defined center X and Y, and also our last row here. It's basically to position it in the middle, in the center, and the size we have already set in the form. So you can see here, there's a little bit over here, but no worries, we're gonna adjust that right now. Yeah, something like this. This is easier to adjust when we have the data in here. So just a quick recap. The data comes from this backend sheet, the contact detail sheets, and you can keep adding more to contacts here and it will still work when we've been coding it. So let's go back to the initialize here. The next thing we're going to do is to get the last row. So we're going to do a with worksheets contacts. We're going to do a last row equal dot cells dot rows count and column A here and dot end xl up dot row. And then we're going to do end with. Then we're going to make the list box properties. We're going to do with lb search. That's our name of our list box. Dot column count here equals 4. We have 4 columns. Then we're going to do a column header. Column heads. Let's just set that as false. And dot column widths. And we're going to set that just to equal 100. So 100, 100, 100, and 100. Set all the columns equal 100. We're going to adjust this. Then we're going to ensure the list box is cleared before loading data. So we're going to do a dot clear here and check if data exists before assigning a row source to it. So we're going to do a if last row is bigger or equal to 3, then we need the row source to be equal contacts A3 to D and our last row. Else we can make a message box here saying no data found in contacts sheet. VB information, comma, no data. and then do an end if and end with. That should be fine for now. Let's have a look here. Open here and open here, and here we have the context. So it could be good if we make the list box a little bit bigger, so it will, you can see all the emails, and then we adjust these things so it's nice and clean, aligned. All right, something like this. And then the idea is you can search here for name, department, city, and mail, and also a combination. And then the search results should come up and show you. So you have a system where you can search out emails and contacts. And then when we select it here, it should pop into this box with a separator of semicolon. And we add and close it, and it goes back into the email form. Let's have a look at that now. All right, the next thing we're going to take a look at is a search function. So we have these 8 boxes here. This is meant for being a search function, where you can search for name, Alice, for example. Now it doesn't work, we haven't coded it, but it should work, so you can search these 4 criteria: name, department, city, and mail. And then when you pick one, it should go back to these boxes, so you can see what you've selected. Let's start with the search function. We're gonna write that as a sub-module under this module. We're gonna call that sub search contacts. Then we're gonna dim WS as worksheet. We're gonna dim last row as long. We're gonna dim I as long. And we're gonna dim show all as Boolean. Then we're gonna dim result count as long. And then we're gonna set WS equal this workbook dot sheets and contacts. That's the sheet we're gonna use to search for contacts. Then we're gonna do a if statement to ensure the worksheet exists. If WS is nothing, then message box worksheet settings not found. VB exclamation. Exit sub and end if. But if the sheet does exist, which it does, then we're gonna have a last row equal WS cells WS rows count, and we're gonna use column A to set the last row dot end Excel up dot row. If last row is smaller than 3, then we need a message box no data found in contacts sheet. VB information. like this, x is sub, and end if. Then we're gonna do with me lb search if the raw source is not equal blank, then raw source equal blank, and if. Then we're gonna do events that allow updates before cleaning, before clearing, and then we're gonna do a dot clear dot column count equal 4 dot column width, and set that to 100 again. End width. Then we're gonna do a if trim me dot tp name dot text equal blank, and trim me tp department dot text equal blank, and let's copy this, and tp city trim me tp city dot text equal blank, and the same for email, trim me tp email dot text equal blank. Then so basically we're checking all these 4 if they are blank, and if so, we need it to show all equal true. If all boxes are blank, we need to show all equal true. Else show all equal false. And if. And then we initiate result count. Result count equals 0. Then we're gonna do for I equal 3 to the last row. If show all or, and then I'm just gonna copy some few code lines in. Basically what it does, it loops through each row from 3 to the last row and checks if the current row matches the search filters typed in the text box. These 4 text boxes we have: TP, name, department, city, and email. And if all is not empty search fields and there's a match, the corresponding columns, or if show all is true, no filter applied. So meaning that there's no filter. It consider that row as a search, as a match. So that means you can have multiple criteria: search for a name, search for a department, and search for a city, and also search for an email. If you search for a name and maybe a city or a department, then, for example, if you search for Emma in Seattle, then you will only have data with Emma from Seattle, and so on. Let me just copy some more lines in, because this is a bit of a big module here. So what this does is it's now adding the values. And now we need to have the result count. So we're going to do a result count equal result count plus 1, and then I end if, and next I. Feel free to pause the video if this went too fast. Then we're gonna do a if result count equals 0, then we need the me dot lb search add item blank. Then we do me lb search dot list me dot lb search dot list count -1 dot 2 equal no search result. No search results. And if so, it's gonna display no search results if none of the search criteria match any values from the sheet. And that's it. Then we need to copy this in to each box so it calls it and can run this search filters. Like this. And now it should work. Alright, a small adjustment. This box is called TP mail, but it's actually need to be email. And now it should be working. So we search for Alice. Alice Johnson come up. We can also search for Seattle marketing. So that's the functionality we're looking for. And now the idea is when we click one of this, it auto-populates these 4 boxes with our selection. Let's take a look at that now. All right, then we're gonna double tap on the list box here. And what we want to do is make sure the data get into the boxes so we can see our results. But let's start with some error handling. On error, resume next. And then if me lb search list index is not equal -1, then, and -1 basically means there is no selection. Then we're gonna dim selected index as long and selected index equal me lb search dot list index. If me lb search dot column count is bigger or equal to 4, then we need to assign values from list box to text boxes. So we're gonna do a me dot tb1 dot value equal me dot lb search dot column index 0 or 0 selected index. That's the name. And let's copy paste this. And the next is tb2 from index 1. That's department. tb3 index 2. That's the city. And finally tb4 index 3. And that's the mail. Else, we need a message box. Error, list box does not have enough columns. Check column count. That's just a little bit of error handling we can have in VB critical. And if that's it, let's test it. It says block without end if because we're missing an end if. We have an if statement here and an if statement here. Let's try it again. Let's see. This is our selection. And then we can code this, and we have picked Eve Black from finance, and it gets populated into this. All right, let's code this so we can select the people we want to have on our email list. So we double tap on the select button here. And then we're gonna write if metb4.value equal blank, then we need a message box. Please select a contact. VB exclamation. Exit sub and end if. If the TB mails added is empty, add TB4 as it is. Then we're gonna have a if me.tb mails added.value equal blank, then metb mails added.value equal metb4.value. Yeah, we really need to write this and give it a name. TB mails added. See, I was thinking, why didn't it change the name to big letters? That's the power of writing everything with small. You will see that the system doesn't recognize it. But now we're good to go. Then we're gonna write else me TB mails added. You see the system could find it. That value equal metb mails added dot value, and so we're gonna do a symbol like this, semicolon, and metb4 dot value end if. And then we want the 4 boxes to be cleared. Me tb1 dot value equals blank, and do that for all the boxes. Let's have a look here. So let's add one here. We have Charlie. So now it should add the next one with a semicolon in between. Let's add Frank, and it does it correct. So now we are missing this button. And by the way, you can keep adding here. And you can also see now it clears the box when you add here and keeps adding new people with a semicolon. But it doesn't do it the first time. So this functionality works. Alright, I'm very excited because we're almost done with everything. If you've been following along the whole video, thank you for watching, and I hope you learned something, and consider subscribing. I have so many step-by-step trainings, and I plan to do way more. Let's code the last button and connect it to the email form. So quick recap. What we want now is to pick one, and we can search someone out in sales, for example, Jack and Charlie. And then we want this button to work and put this back to this text box because we clicked on this button. If we had picked the other one, it would go into the other boxes, and we're gonna test that also. So we want to activate this button. All right, that's not too big of a code, so let's get started. Then we're gonna do 3 if statements. So we can say if frm email sender cb2 dot backcolor equal rab 0 255, 0, then, and if the background color of that bottom is green, that means that we have clicked on it. So it needs to go back to the corresponding box here. So if we click this one, it will turn green, and the information needs to go back to this button, and so on. If we click on this button will be green, and the email addresses will have to go back to this button. And the same for the BCC. That's what we're gonna do here with the 3 if statements. So that would mean then the frm email sender dot txt 2 dot value has to be equal me tb mails added dot value. That's it. Then this will work, and we can run a test here and just pick Charlie, select, add and close, and you see it puts it into the right button. But we also need to reset the colors and make the other buttons work. We can just copy paste this. This time, if the CC command button is green, then it needs to go back to the CC text box. And here, BCC, BCC. So that it all checks which one of these buttons is green and insert the mail addresses to the corresponding text box. That would also mean that we'll have to reset the colors of the boxes. So we're going to do frm email sender.cp 2 dot backcolor equal rab 000. I'm gonna do them for every one of them. And now it's time to test it. Let's test the form. So here we have the email form, and then who are we gonna send to? We can search for the sales team and pick Jack, select. We can also get someone from finance, Leo, select, and add and close. So you see one mistake, it also needs to unload this form. Very easy to fix. We're just gonna write unload me. And now it should be working. Let's test again. And we're gonna send to the marketing team, Karen, select, and also one from finance. Let's pick Rachel, select, and add and close. It now closes the button, resets the buttons so they're all black, and it put the email addresses into the right text box. We can also have a CC here to check that. Something with A, yeah, let's pick Alice Johnson, select, add and close. So it seems to be working. Frank, add and close. It's working. Yeah, subject line and message, we can fill that in also. We can also browse for a file. Let's get the monthly report. And let's save this as a template. So we can call that monthly check of report. Hi everyone. Can you please write some notes to the report? And then we can click here and call it monthly report check. Save template. Template saved successfully. And we can see it here already. Monthly report check. We can also do follow-up. We can switch between all these emails we have here. Very cool. Or we can reset. So that's it. Thank you for following along. And an extra feature here, log here. So let's say we want to send one of the templates we're gonna send a welcome email. Then you can fill this in. You can make this concrete. Say, hi John, and then send. And here it is, ready to send. And here we have it locked. 26th of April, around 10 o'clock. The welcome email we just sent is here. I really appreciate it if you made it this far. Make sure to follow me on Instagram and TikTok. I have also videos there and I post there every day. Thanks for following along, and make sure to share my content with a coworker or with a friend who wants to automate that task in Excel. And then I will see you in the next video.